Okay. Okay. Hi, I'm Jack. I'm going to do Luke 7. It starts out, and I'm doing it from the Message. It starts out like, when we finished speaking to the people, he entered Capernaum. A Roman captain there had a servant who was on his deathbed. He prized him highly and did not want to lose him. When he heard Jesus was back, he sent leaders from the Jewish community asking him to come and heal his servant. They came to Jesus and urged him to do it, saying, "He deserves this. He loves our people. He even built our meeting place." Jesus went with them. When he was still quite far from the house, the captain sent friends to tell him, "Master, you don't have to go to all this trouble. I'm not a good person. You know, I'd be embarrassed for you to come into my house, even embarrassed for you to come in person. Just give the order and my servants will get well. I'm a man under orders. I give orders. I tell one person to go and he goes, another come and he comes. My slave, do this, and he does it." Taken aback, Jesus addressed the accompanying crowd. "I've yet to come across this kind of simple trust anywhere in Israel. The very people who are supposed to know about God and how he works." When the messengers got back home, they found the servant up and well. Not long after that, Jesus went to the village Nain. His disciples were with him, along with quite a large crowd. As they approached the village gate, they met a funeral procession. A woman's only son was being carried out for burial, and the mother was a widow. When Jesus saw her, his heart was broken. He said to her, "Don't cry." When they went over and touched the coffin, the pallbearer stopped. He said, "Young man, I tell you, get up." The dead son sat up and began. Jesus presented him to his mother. Before I go on, the dogs are doing it for them, so they're kind of talking about what I'm reading, so they're discussing it amongst themselves. Okay. When all realized they were in the place of whole mysteries, that God was at work among them, they were quite worshipful. They went noisily, gratefully, calling out among themselves, "God is back, looking to the needs of the people." The news of Jesus spread all through the country. Jesus' disciples reported back to him the news of all the events taking place. He sent two of them to the master and asked the question, "Are you the one who we're expecting and are still awaiting?" The men showed up before Jesus and said, "John the Baptizer sent us to ask you, are you the one we've been expecting, or are you still waiting? Or are we still waiting?" In the next 2 or 3 hours, Jesus healed many from diseases, distresses, and evil spirits. To many of the blind, he gave the gift of sight. Then he answered his question, "Go back and tell John what you have just seen and heard. The blind see, the lame walk, lepers were cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead were raised, the wretched of the earth have God's salvation, hospitality extended to them." Is this what you're expecting? Then count yourself fortunate. After John's messengers left and to make their report, Jesus said more about John to the crowd of people. "What did you expect when you went out to see him in the wild? A weekend camper? Hardly. What then? The sheik in silk pajamas? not in the wilderness, not by the long shot. What then? The messenger from God. That's right, a messenger. Probably the greatest messenger you will ever hear. He is the messenger Malachi announced when he wrote, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you to make a road smooth for you. Let me lay it out for you as plainly as I can. No one in history surpasses John the Baptizer, but in the kingdom he prepared for you, the lowliest of person is ahead of him. The ordinary and disreputable people who heard John, by being baptized by him into the kingdom, are the clearest evidence the Pharisees and religious officials would have nothing to do with such a baptizing, would think of giving up their place in line to their inferiors. How I can account for the people of this generation. They are spoiled children complaining to the parents. They wanted to skip rope, and you were always too tired. We wanted to talk, but you were always too busy. John the Baptizer came fasting, and you were calling him lazy. The Son of Man came feasting, and you called him a lush. Opinion polls don't count for much, do they? The proof of the is in the pudding is being eaten. One of the Pharisees asked him over the meal. He went to a Pharisee's house and sat down at the dinner table. Just when a woman of the village, a town harlot, having heard that Jesus is a guest of the home of the Pharisees, came with a bottle of very expensive perfume and stood at his feet. Weeping, raining tears on his feet, letting down her hair, she dried his feet, kissed them, and anointed them with perfume. When the Pharisees who had been invited saw this, he said to himself, if this man was the prophet I thought he was, he would have known what kind of woman this is who is falling all over him. Jesus said to him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Oh, tell me. 2 men are in debt to a banker. One owned 500 silver pieces, the other 50. Neither of them could pay, so the banker canceled both debts. Which of the two would be more grateful? Simon answered, I suppose the one who is forgiven the most. That's right, said Jesus. Then turning to the woman, by speaking to Simon, he said, do you see this woman? I came to your home. You provided no water for my feet, but she rained tears on my feet and dried them with her hair. You gave me no greeting, but from the time I arrived, she hasn't quit kissing my feet. You provided nothing for freshening up, but she has soothed my feet with perfume. Impressive, isn't it? She was forgiven many, many sins, and so she is very, very grateful. If the forgiveness is minimal, the gratitude is minimal. Then he spoke to her, I forgive your sins. That set the dinner guests talking behind his back. Who does he think he is, forgiving sins? He ignored them and said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. That's it. And that's for the dogs too. Thanks.